In today's video, we're going to continue talking about cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia and turning our attention to this last piece, which is all about dealing with beliefs that are dysfunctional. And I'll talk to you about what that even means in a little while. But before we do that, if this is the first video you've seen, what my suggestion is that you go back to the beginning of this video series. Because what I've done is I've looked at every single part of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, and I broke it down, each one video at a time, but talked about these steps in a practical way, so that you can really start understanding how I use it in a practical way in my client work, helping people like you to overcome their long-term insomnia and sleep problems. Just because you know the theory about cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, it doesn't always mean that you can convert it into the practicalities of creating results. So that's why I recorded this video series, is to really help you see in a practical way how I apply these principles. Now, in my practice, cognitive behavioral therapy is just one of those principles that I use. Over the years, I've studied many different principles, so I will bring in whatever the client situation desires or needs, to make sure that we can actually create tangible results. So with any treatment plan, with any principles, what you really want to make sure is that the results follow. If the results don't follow and you've been trying a lot of different over a period of time, then my suggestion is that you seek support. Because just because you've applied a bunch of things, it doesn't mean that you have maybe applied the appropriate things that is really going to help you to make that difference. So this is, again, one of the things that I always say to clients is be self-aware enough to understand whether or not you manage to create results or not. And look for another practitioner or look for a practitioner that can provide you with that support, just like I do with my clients within my sleep coaching work. So now that we covered that, I wanted to welcome you back if you are part of my community already. Thank you so much for being a supporter, being someone who learns from me. This is actually a very exciting year. 2024 is my 10th year actually practicing and helping clients like you. So this year is very much about really looking back and seeing how far I've come. And you'll see different videos across the year that I will create, partly celebrating, but partly continuing to share what I know so that you can start actually integrating them into your life as well. So thank you so much for being part of, whether or not it's my YouTube community or my email community. Either way, it's great to be able to support you and continue to share with you things that I feel that can help you. If you haven't yet become part of my community, then here is your chance. Hit that subscribe button below, hit that little bell so I can let you know that I posted a new video. And if you don't really know who I am, then let me quickly introduce myself. So my name is Beatrix Schmidt. I'm a sleep coach, professional speaker, and the creator of the Sleep Skills for Life program, which is very much my way of helping people like you and teach and train them to put the right things in place so they can develop what I call sleep skills for life. That means those skill sets will continue to help you to sleep well consistently no matter what happens. And that's really important. The results has to follow when you put the right things in place. So now that we've covered that, let's turn our attention back to this idea of dysfunctional beliefs and how you can really help yourself to move forward and get to a better place. Now, beliefs are a really big part of who we are as a human being. Our mind's job is to understand events, is to look at whether or not they're positive or negative, is to create that perception of what might have happened there or how we can avoid or how we can improve something. So beliefs are very much part of our entire experience as a human being. We all have beliefs. We all have sometimes a bit more negative ones or a bit more positive ones. But one of the things I always say to clients is that no belief should ever be sort of criticized. We got to respect our beliefs. They would have come from experiences, even if they come from negative experiences, and even if they might be holding us back. there is often a reason why you might have created a belief and why it might be holding you back. So I always say that whilst we want to deal with them, but we want to deal with them in a kind, compassionate, and in a respectful way. There's no point you judging or punishing yourself for having a belief that maybe is holding you back, because that just creates another battle, another fight that is often not helpful actually overcoming insomnia and sleep problems. Because what we want to get you to is physical, emotional, and mental relaxation. Fighting and criticism and judgment doesn't help with that. Now, I know that this is easier said than done, but one of the first things I look at with client work is to understand and respect the beliefs that are there, even if they are negative ones. And the way I do it is, first of all, I ask my clients about their experience, and therefore, naturally, the beliefs will come up. Now, if you are doing this for yourself, by yourself, it's often a great way to approach even discovering beliefs or surfacing beliefs or becoming self-aware about beliefs in a way that it's non-judgmental. Either a friend can help you with that, but often friends jump in and advise us. So if a friend is helping you, then you would want to ask the friend to just listen and make a note of some of the things you say. I would be careful with working with someone who doesn't understand how to work with beliefs, because sometimes it can go the wrong way as well. But other than that, you can do this on your own. You can have a piece of paper or notebook where you might jot down one or two of them. But I would really suggest you don't download a lot of different beliefs, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself by either trying to or dealing with too many of them at the same time. So when I work with clients, I look at one or two of them at a time and not deal with too many things at that same time. Because what we really want to also track is, if we put in place something new with a belief, does that improve your sleep or does that not improve your sleep? This is how you're going to know whether or not you have dealt with the appropriate belief that's perhaps holding you back. So let's take an example of what I would call maybe a dysfunctional belief. Again, in my practice, I have seen so many different beliefs over the years that they're countless. Every person has a different combination based on their experience. So let's say that you struggle with falling asleep easily. Now, often when somebody even starts with that belief and would even share it with me and say, well, I really struggle to fall asleep easily, that's too general as a belief. Well, what does easily mean to you? That's how you can transfer it to practical belief. Okay, so what I mean by not being able to fall asleep easily is that it takes me longer than 45 minutes. Maybe, let's say, it takes you anything between 45 minutes to an hour to fall asleep, and that's what your belief is. Now, the reason often this will become a dysfunctional one is that you may not see times where you might actually be lower than 45 minutes. And I see this quite a bit. So your mind, if it has a certain belief, it will want to match the experience most of the time. Again, this is just one example. So this is a very simple example, but there's many versions of beliefs in some ways. One of the things I see with clients that I work with is, for example, when they say to me, I struggle to fall asleep easily, but then we trickle it down to this more specific practical belief of, well, I can't fall asleep within 45 minutes or less than 45 minutes. Now, when we look at a sleep diary keeping, for example, the client sometimes can actually see themselves that whilst they have this belief, there are exceptions to the rule. And this is, again, sometimes in this example can happen quite easily. When you perhaps had 2 or 3 days of very difficult sleep, very much struggling, not being able to sleep as much, sometimes what happens in this case, for example, you might have a one-off night when it takes you less than 45 minutes to fall asleep. Now, if that is the case, That means that the dysfunctional part of the belief is that you feel or think that it can never happen under 45 minutes. You can never fall asleep under 45 minutes. But the reality is that there are examples where you might, and you do. So what we look at in terms of dysfunctional beliefs are how true are they? And really honestly, rather than perhaps letting your emotions driving it. I respect that you're struggling, but we need to be honest with ourselves about just the experiences. What is the current experience in its most true form? This is where you might say to yourself as the belief that I can never fall asleep within 45 minutes, but we then find experiences that you can. Therefore, we started addressing that part of that dysfunctional belief. Now, this is again just a very simple example. Often beliefs have different layers, different beliefs attached to the other beliefs, and so on. But the way you want to start is to actually just understand what is the practical belief, not the superficial one. So remember, the superficial one or the general one was I can't fall asleep easily, but we then made it practical, means I can't fall asleep within 45 minutes. So that's one of the things I would suggest you start with, is you really understand more practically what might be those beliefs. And just pick one or two. Please don't do more than that, because the more you explore it, often the worse you will feel about the situation. We don't want that. We just want you to take it one step at a time. So now that we have looked at what percentage of times it may happen, that's one layer. Then we can look at, well, okay, well, if you can't fall asleep in 45 minutes or less, well, what is really the worst case scenario? Most of the time, clients, because they experience this for so long, and often it's very complex, so it's not just about falling asleep, but they may not have more than 5 hours sleep a night, as one example. The worst case scenario becomes really negative. Well, if I can't fall asleep in 45 minutes, then all these other things will guarantee to happen. But again, a lot of the times your body and your mind is completely capable to help you get through the day. Sometimes the length of sleep problems and how many hours per night you have can influence that. So sometimes there are certain health conditions that might already have developed. I don't know that. So that's again based on the person. But when you're still continuing to explore your sleep, and let's say a client is still talking to me, that means that whilst it is not a great scenario and I can understand the suffering and the struggling, but you're still around to have that opportunity to overcome it. So that's where the worst case scenario often feels more negative than what it actually is. And again, this is not in any way disrespecting your experience. It's just helping your mind to take that little bit of edge from this dysfunctional part. When you can really just see your experience as your current reality, your current baseline, it's much less emotional. So a lot of the times, just by itself, you create a bit more relaxation. So when I look at dealing with dysfunctional beliefs, I take some of these steps, but every single client is different. So the combination of steps, the way I approach change, the way I approach training the body and the mind to create better is going to be different based on the client. So this last step here is exactly what I just said. When you're dealing with dysfunctional beliefs, any tools or techniques that you put in place alongside the belief change has to back a new positive experience. Just because you surface the beliefs, but you don't do anything about them, it doesn't by itself mean that you have a better experience. So the way I work with dysfunctional beliefs with this part of that step is we got to find the appropriate tools and techniques that matches their version of belief, so we can then practically train the body and the mind to create a different outcome. What I mean practically, I mean if the tool and technique is appropriate, the results will follow, and your body is very capable of retraining and creating a better experience. So beliefs are one part, but we then have to create a better emotional relaxation, a better mental relaxation, a better physical relaxation in order for you to make progress and not let that belief stop the entire progress of change and getting better. So this is really the simplest way and maybe the most practical way to break down these steps of how I deal with it. It's often a bit more complex than that, but this will really help you to take it one step at a time. Really look at surfacing one or two beliefs first in a practical way, really looking at what might be making it more negative, more emotional, this kind of percentage of time, and recognize when you have a different experience. It's not always exactly that. There are going to be versions. Every single client that I had a sleep assessment with had versions of experiences, but often we resort to just speaking about the general things, and that can be quite dangerous because that builds these beliefs of other options may not be possible, but they're always there. Even if your sleep changes 5 or 10% across a week or across a few days, that means change is there. That means change is possible. So I hope that this video has helped you begin your journey with perhaps dysfunctional beliefs or generally just beliefs that might be holding you back. Like I said, beliefs can be quite complex. Often I bring in different tools and techniques. So this is just a cognitive behavioral therapy approach and part of that approach. So if you have liked this video and it has helped you to sort of think about it in a different way, then hit that little like button below. And if you've got a question about this, you're very welcome to either pop that in the comment box below or reach out separately through my website as well. Like I said, in my practice, I deal with all sorts of different beliefs, from sleep positions to falling asleep to trouble waking up in the middle of the night to waking up tired in the morning, and all sorts of different things when it comes to these different parts of our sleep. So thank you so much for watching, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next video when we continue talking about different parts of my sleep coaching practice and how I actually help people. We want to talk about cognitive behavioral therapy more because this is just one part of my work, but I hope that you have enjoyed this video series and will continue working through some of these bits and pieces that I work on with my clients as well. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.